Welcome back to our channel, soap fans. Today is a beautiful day to dive deep into the latest, jaw-dropping drama unfolding right here in Genoa City. Grab your favorite snack, get comfortable, and let us unpack the explosive twists that are about to shake our favorite characters to their very core. Imagine, if you will, the sheer, unadulterated terror of knowing that a monster is walking among us, completely untethered and entirely unpredictable. That is exactly the nightmare currently unfolding in the luxurious, yet suddenly suffocating, corridors of the Genoa City Athletic Club. The man who has caused immeasurable trauma to the Newman family, the man who orchestrated a deadly explosion in Las Vegas, the man who pushed Nick Newman back into the agonizing depths of fentanyl addiction, is currently a blank slate. Matt Clark has lost his memory, thanks to a desperate, defensive strike from Sienna Bacall out in the desert. But rather than handing this dangerous fugitive over to the authorities, Phyllis Summers has decided to play a high-stakes, incredibly foolish game of keeper. She has tucked Matt away in a plush GCC suite, hoping to use him as the ultimate bargaining chip against the ruthless Victor Newman. However, as we are about to see, trying to cage a wild animal, even one that has forgotten its own ferocity, is a recipe for absolute disaster. Up in the opulent confines of the GCC suite, a bizarre and deeply unsettling domestic scene is playing out. Matt Clark, a man usually characterized by his menacing presence and dark, calculated aura, is standing before a mirror in clothes that simply do not belong to him. Phyllis has taken it upon herself to play his personal stylist, providing him with a wardrobe of new, unassuming garments that starkly contrast with his true, dangerous nature. He tugs at the collar of a shirt that feels entirely alien against his skin, his brow furrowed in profound confusion. The clothes are too mundane, too ordinary for a man whose subconscious is wired for violence and manipulation. Phyllis, hovering nearby with the practiced ease of a seasoned con artist, smoothly suggests that these new clothes are exactly what he needs. She insists that they will help him blend in, masking his true identity from a world that she claims is out to get him. It is a masterful stroke of psychological manipulation, designed to strip Matt of his agency and make him entirely dependent on her for his survival and identity. To further cement her role as his benevolent savior, Phyllis arrives with a lavish breakfast tray, the aroma of fresh coffee and warm pastries filling the room. It is a picture of domestic tranquility that completely belies the sinister reality of their situation. She sets the tray down, offering him a warm, encouraging smile that hides her desperate, calculating agenda. Phyllis is playing the role of the nurturing caretaker to absolute perfection, but her underlying motive is clear. She needs Matt to stay exactly where he is. When Matt inevitably expresses his desire to leave the room, to step outside and perhaps jog his fractured memory in the fresh air, Phyllis's demeanor hardens just a fraction. She firmly, yet gently, instructs him that leaving the suite is out of the question. She paints the outside world as a dangerous and forgiving place, effectively turning the luxurious hotel room into a gilded cage. Matt, despite his amnesia, is not entirely devoid of his core instincts. The walls of the suite are beginning to close in on him, and a deep, restless agitation is taking root in his chest. He complains bitterly about feeling caged, pacing the floor like a trapped predator. His mind may be a blank canvas, but his body remembers the freedom of movement, the thrill of the hunt. He stops and looks at Phyllis, his eyes narrowing with a nascent suspicion. He asks her the million-dollar question. Why is she helping him? Why is this beautiful, sophisticated stranger going out of her way to protect a man who doesn't even know his own name? Phyllis, never one to miss a beat, spins a narrative of profound empathy and shared hardship. She looks him dead in the eye and claims that she knows exactly what it feels like to be down on her luck, to be backed into a corner with the whole world against her. Phyllis's lie is layered with a twisted, ironic truth. She is, in fact, experiencing the lowest point of her life. She is currently facing the terrifying prospect of federal prison. Her Summers conglomerate is crumbling, and she has been publicly humiliated and handcuffed by her lifelong rival, Christine Blair Romalotti. Victor Newman has used a highly advanced artificial intelligence program to fabricate damning evidence against her, framing her for corporate theft. Phyllis is desperate, completely isolated, and fighting for her very survival. She tells Matt that now that her luck has supposedly changed, she simply wants to pay it forward by helping someone else in need. It is a brilliant, manipulative performance, designed to foster a sense of deep gratitude and loyalty in her amnesiac captive. She is banking on the hope that if she plays the savior long enough, Matt will become the perfect, compliant pawn in her war against the Newman Empire. Meanwhile, a very different kind of tension is brewing downstairs in the elegant, dimly lit GCC bar. Michael Baldwin and his wife, Lauren Fenmore Baldwin, are sharing a drink, their faces etched with profound worry and exhaustion. Michael, the brilliant legal strategist who knows the dark, ruthless underbelly of Genoa City better than anyone, is deeply disturbed by Phyllis's latest maneuvers. He recounts to Lauren the details of Phyllis's most recent negotiation attempt with Victor Newman. Michael knows that Phyllis believes holding Matt Clark hostage will force Victor to drop the fabricated AI charges and let her keep Newman Enterprises. But Michael has spent decades navigating Victor's treacherous waters, and he knows that the Newman patriarch is not a man who compromises. Michael leans in, his voice low and urgent as he explains the fatal flaw in Phyllis's master plan. He tells Lauren that he highly doubts Victor will accept anything less than total surrender. Victor does not just want Matt Clark to face justice for what he did to Nick and Sharon. Victor wants his company back, and he wants to see Phyllis utterly destroyed in the process. Michael knows that Victor views Phyllis's attempt at blackmail not as a negotiation, but as an insult. Lauren listens, her heart breaking for her best friend. She knows that Phyllis is a fighter, a woman who refuses to back down even when the odds are insurmountable. But she also sees the terrifying reality that Phyllis is playing a game of chess against a grandmaster while blindfolded. They are two of the only people in town who genuinely care about Phyllis's well-being, and they are forced to watch helplessly as she accelerates toward a brick wall. Their hushed, anxious conversation is interrupted by the arrival of the woman of the hour. Phyllis struts into the bar, her posture radiating an artificial, brittle confidence. She slides into the booth beside them, her eyes flashing with a defiant, defensive fire. Michael and Lauren immediately try to reason with her, gently probing the reality of her situation and the immense danger of harboring a fugitive like Matt Clark. But Phyllis firmly states her stance, doubling down on her delusional belief that she holds all the cards. She argues that Victor will have no choice but to fold when she presents him with the man who nearly killed his sons. However, as Phyllis speaks, Michael and Lauren notice something deeply unsettling, a subtle shift in her tone that sends a cold shiver down their spines. As Phyllis defends her actions, her words betray a shocking, terrifying reality. She is beginning to sympathize with Matt. She speaks of his confusion, his vulnerability, and his fractured mind with a softness that is entirely uncharacteristic of the usually ruthless Phyllis Summers. Michael and Lauren exchange a horrified glance. It is one thing for Phyllis to use Matt as a cold, calculated bargaining chip. It is an entirely different, infinitely more dangerous scenario if she is actually starting to view him as a victim. They realize that Phyllis is falling into a twisted psychological trap of her own making. By playing the role of his caretaker, she is inadvertently forming an emotional bond with the very monster who terrorized her friends. This misplaced sympathy is blinding her to the imminent, lethal threat that Matt poses, making her reckless and dangerously off guard. Oblivious to the profound concern of her friends, Phyllis eventually excuses herself, her mind returning to the captive waiting in her suite. She rides the elevator back up, rehearsing her next manipulative speech, convinced that she has the situation entirely under control. The plush carpet of the hallway muffles her footsteps as she approaches the door of the suite. She raises her hand and knocks, a soft, rhythmic tapping designed to announce her return without causing alarm. She waits. Silence answers her. She knocks again, a little louder this time, her heart giving a slight, uncomfortable flutter. Still, there is no response from within. The silence stretches, thick and heavy, and the fragile illusion of control begins to shatter around her. Panic, cold and sharp, begins to claw at the edges of Phyllis's mind. She looks up and down the empty corridor, her eyes landing on an unattended housekeeper's cart parked a few doors down. Driven by a sudden, overwhelming surge of adrenaline, she hurries over to the cart, her fingers trembling as she searches for a master keycard. She finds one resting near a stack of fresh towels, swipes it, and rushes back to the suite. She slides the card into the lock, the little light flashes green, and the heavy door clicks open. Phyllis pushes her way inside, her breath catching in her throat as she calls out Matt's name, but the suite is entirely, devastatingly empty. The new clothes are slightly rumpled on the chair, the breakfast tray sits abandoned on the table, but the man himself is gone. Matt Clark has vanished into thin air, slipping out of her grasp and into the unsuspecting streets of Genoa City. If I am being completely honest, it is incredibly difficult to muster any sympathy for Phyllis in this moment. Her current predicament is the direct result of her own staggering arrogance and her compulsive need to outsmart everyone around her. She fired Michael Baldwin, the one man capable of saving her from federal prison, simply because his pragmatic, realistic advice did not align with her delusional fantasies of victory. By choosing to harbor a dangerous, volatile psychopath like Matt Clark, she crossed the line from corporate espionage into sheer, unadulterated madness. Phyllis believed she could tame a monster simply by buying him a new shirt and feeding him toast. Her hubris blinded her to the fact that Matt, even without his memories, is a survivor driven by dark, primal instincts. She played with fire, and now the entire city is at risk of burning down. As for Matt Clark, his disappearance is the most terrifying development this town has seen in years. He is a walking, breathing time bomb. Without his memories to anchor him, he is operating purely on instinct, wandering through a city filled with people whose lives he has systematically destroyed. The sheer terror lies in the unknown. What will trigger his memories? Will a chance encounter with Sharon Newman, the woman he obsessively abused, snap his fractured mind back into its violent reality? Or will he cross paths with Nick Newman, currently suffering through the agonizing throes of fentanyl withdrawal in Victor's isolated bunker? Matt's amnesia makes him a tragic figure only to those who do not know his history. To everyone else, he is a lethal threat that has just been unleashed. Michael and Lauren, meanwhile, represent the absolute voice of reason in a storyline that has gone completely off the rails. Their profound, exhausting frustration is palpable, and it is heartbreaking to watch them try to save a woman who is so determined to destroy herself. So, what happens next in this explosive, high-stakes game of cat and mouse? I predict that Matt's journey through Genoa City will be a slow, terrifying burn. He will likely wander into Crimson Lights or the park, interacting with residents who have no idea they are speaking to a monster. I believe his memories will not return all at once, but rather in violent, disorienting flashes triggered by specific sights or sounds. Perhaps he will see a photograph of Noah, or hear the name Newman, sparking a dark, uncontrollable rage that he cannot explain. As for Phyllis, her panic will reach a fever pitch. She will have to frantically search the city for her lost leverage, knowing that if Victor finds Matt first, her last hope for freedom is entirely obliterated. Furthermore, if the police discover that Phyllis was harboring a known fugitive, Christine Blairo Malodi will have enough ammunition to lock her away for the rest of her life. The walls are closing in, and the fallout will be spectacular. What do you think, Soap fans? Will Phyllis find Matt before his deadly memories return, or is Genoa City about to face its darkest hour yet? Drop your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments below, and don't forget to share this article with your fellow Y&R addicts so we can all obsess over this drama together.